The crowd froze as Rex lunged, his teeth ripping through the school's prized painting. Beneath the shredded canvas lay a shocking secret that would unravel decades of deception. Gasps echoed, and whispers spread like wildfire. What Rex revealed wasn't just hidden, it was a truth that would change everything forever. It was during one of these routine patrols that Mark noticed Rex behaving unusually. The dog's ears perked up, his nose twitching as he neared the auditorium. At first, Mark thought nothing of it. Perhaps a student had dropped a snack, or there was an unfamiliar scent lingering. But as Rex's agitation grew, Mark's curiosity deepened. The German Shepherd's growls were low, steady, and unlike anything Mark had heard before. His focus was entirely on the painting, his muscles tense, as if ready to pounce. Mark approached cautiously, placing a reassuring hand on Rex's back. "What is it, boy?" he murmured. But Rex remained fixated, his gaze locked on the artwork's center. The auditorium was empty, save for the creak of old wood and the faint hum of the air conditioning. Mark felt a shiver run down his spine. He had always trusted Rex's instincts, and this time was no different. The following morning, news of Rex's strange behavior spread among the staff. Teachers whispered in the hallways, students speculated in hushed tones. Some dismissed it as a fluke, a quirk of an overzealous dog. Others, however, felt a ripple of unease. The painting had always been a fixture, a silent witness to the school's story, but now it seemed to pulse with an unspoken tension. In the days that followed, Rex's behavior became more pronounced. Every time they neared the auditorium, he would growl and pull against his leash. His handler tried to redirect him, offering treats and commands, but nothing worked. The painting had captured his attention, and he refused to let go. Mark knew something was deeply wrong, something waiting to be uncovered. Mark couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Rex's unease was more than a reaction to a passing scent or a curious sound. It was as though the painting itself whispered a secret that only the dog could hear. The German Shepherd's usual calm had given way to restlessness. He circled the auditorium with his ears flat and tail low, occasionally letting out soft whines as though warning of an invisible threat. The school's morning routine continued, oblivious to Rex's increasing agitation. Students bustled to class, teachers prepared lessons, and the headmaster walked the halls with a practiced smile. But whenever Mark and Rex passed the auditorium, the dog's demeanor shifted dramatically. His paws scraped against the polished floor, his nose twitched, and his low growls seemed to vibrate with warning. Mark decided to test his partner's instincts. Early one morning, before the students arrived, he unlocked the auditorium and led Rex inside. The dog's reaction was immediate. His body stiffened, his hackles rose, and he pulled hard toward the painting. Mark let him off the leash, and Rex darted forward, stopping just inches from the artwork. His nose pressed against the canvas, sniffing with urgency. "Easy, boy," Mark whispered, his own nerves on edge. He knew Rex was trained to detect drugs, explosives, and hidden dangers. But this was a school auditorium. What could possibly be concealed here? Still, Rex's instincts had never failed them before. Mark knelt beside him, examining the edges of the painting for any sign of disturbance. The canvas was perfectly intact. There were no signs of tampering, no hidden compartments, no unusual odors that Mark could detect. And yet Rex refused to back down. He growled softly, the sound low and rumbling, like a distant storm. Mark glanced around, half expecting someone to appear and explain the dog's behavior, but they were alone. Later that day, word spread among the staff about Rex's strange actions. Some dismissed it as a quirk, but others felt uneasy. A few recalled stories of the painting's origin, a gift from an anonymous donor decades ago, rumored to hide a secret message. Still, no one took the dog's behavior seriously enough to investigate further. Mark, however, couldn't ignore it. That evening, long after the last bell had rung and the halls had fallen silent, he returned to the auditorium with Rex. He watched as the dog once again fixated on the painting, growling low and pacing anxiously. Mark's heart raced. Something was definitely wrong, and whatever it was, Rex was determined to uncover it. The morning of the school assembly dawned bright and clear, but Mark's unease lingered. He stood by the entrance to the auditorium, Rex by his side, as students filled the rows of seats. The chatter of excitement filled the air, a stark contrast to the tension knotting in Mark's stomach. The painting hung silently above the stage, bathed in soft light from the high windows. To most, it was just another backdrop. To Rex, it was something far more sinister. As the headmaster stepped up to the podium, the room hushed. Mark kept one eye on the crowd and the other on Rex, whose posture remained tense. His ears pricked forward. The dog's gaze was locked onto the painting, his body coiled like a spring ready to snap. Mark whispered a command to calm him, but Rex ignored it. His tail stiffened, and his muscles trembled with contained urgency. The headmaster's speech droned on, praising the school's achievements and history. But suddenly, a sharp growl cut through the silence. Heads turned. Rex's growl deepened into a bark, sharp and insistent. Mark tightened his grip on the leash, but Rex lunged forward, dragging him closer to the stage. The room erupted into murmurs, students craning their necks to see. "Mark, what's going on?" a teacher whispered nearby, concern etched on her face. Mark's pulse quickened. He tried to hold Rex back, but the dog twisted, yanking with surprising strength. Before Mark could react, Rex leapt forward, his claws raking against the stage floor. He lunged at the painting, his jaws locking onto the canvas. A collective gasp filled the room. Students shrieked, teachers shouted, and the headmaster froze mid-sentence, his words forgotten. The painting's fabric gave way under Rex's powerful jaws, ripping in a jagged line. Behind it, dust billowed into the air, and something glinted in the sunlight. Mark's heart raced as he rushed forward, pulling Rex back. The dog resisted, growling fiercely, his body shielding the torn canvas as if guarding a treasure. Through the tear, Mark glimpsed a hidden compartment built into the wall. His breath caught in his throat. This wasn't just a random hiding spot, it was a deliberate construction, concealed for decades behind the painting. A stunned silence settled over the auditorium. The headmaster descended from the stage, his face pale. "What? What is that?" he stammered. Mark didn't answer. He knelt by the exposed compartment, brushing away dust to reveal a sealed box embedded in the wall. It was old, its metal hinges rusted, but it bore intricate engravings, symbols Mark didn't recognize. "Everyone, please remain calm," the headmaster called out, though his voice trembled. Mark exchanged a glance with him, silently conveying the gravity of the discovery. The students murmured in hushed tones, eyes wide with curiosity and fear. Rex stood at Mark's side, his chest heaving, his ears pinned back as though waiting for danger to strike. Mark's hands trembled slightly as he reached toward the box. This was no ordinary disruption. Rex hadn't simply reacted to a scent or a hidden snack. He had uncovered a secret long buried beneath the school's polished surface, a secret that was about to change everything. Mark's breath caught in his throat as he gently pried the box loose from its hiding place. It was heavier than he'd anticipated, its rusted hinges groaning under the strain. Dust and flakes of old paint rained down, catching the light as if tiny sparks danced in the air. The auditorium remained hushed, the students' eyes locked onto the scene unfolding before them. Rex stood guard, his growls low and steady, as though warning them not to interrupt. Mark placed the box carefully on the edge of the stage. His fingers hovered over the latch, heart pounding in his chest. The ornate engravings shimmered faintly under the auditorium lights, symbols that looked ancient and unfamiliar. He hesitated, glancing at the headmaster, whose face was pale and drawn. With a nod from the older man, Mark flipped the latch and slowly opened the lid. Inside, wrapped in layers of faded cloth, were several objects, items that immediately felt out of place within a modern school auditorium. Mark gingerly lifted the first item, a delicate silver locket, tarnished with age. It was etched with initials and an intricate crest that no one recognized. Beneath the locket lay a bundle of old letters, tied with a crimson ribbon frayed at the edges. The paper was yellowed and brittle, the ink faded but still legible. Mark handed the locket to the headmaster and carefully unfolded one of the letters. His brows furrowed as he read the looping script. The words were in an older form of English, describing a secret pact made generations ago. They spoke of a family's lost inheritance, of betrayal and a cover-up, and of an heir who had disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The letter hinted that the truth was hidden, waiting to be uncovered when the time was right. Gasps rippled through the audience as Mark read a passage aloud. The students leaned forward, their curiosity piqued, while teachers exchanged uneasy glances. What had started as a routine school assembly was quickly turning into something far more profound, a revelation that could reshape the very identity of Westwood Academy. Rex continued to pace nearby, occasionally sniffing at the compartment in the wall. Mark's attention was drawn back to the box as he removed a final object, a small leather-bound journal. Its cover was worn, the edges frayed from years of use. He opened it cautiously, revealing pages filled with sketches, notes, and a map marked with an X. The map's location appeared familiar, the grounds of Westwood Academy itself. Mark's pulse quickened. This wasn't just a collection of forgotten trinkets. It was a puzzle, and somewhere within its pieces lay a truth that had been concealed for decades. The assembly was no longer just a gathering. It had become the beginning of a journey into the school's hidden past. The discovery of the hidden box sent ripples through Westwood Academy. Teachers whispered in corners, students clustered in small groups, and even the most stoic staff members exchanged uneasy glances. The letters Mark had read hinted at secrets that challenged the school's legacy. Whispers of betrayal, lost inheritance, and a hidden heir floated through the corridors, feeding an atmosphere thick with speculation and tension. Eager to uncover more, Mark reached out to Dr. Eleanor Price, a renowned historian and archivist. Her knowledge of local lore and her expertise with ancient documents were unmatched. When Mark described the symbols on the box and the cryptic contents of the journal, Eleanor agreed to come immediately. By midday, she stood in the auditorium, examining the artifacts with a practiced eye. "This locket is engraved with the crest of the Ashwood family," Eleanor murmured, turning it over in her gloved hands. They were a prominent family in this region, tied to the very founding of Westwood Academy. But they vanished generations ago, leaving behind little more than rumors. She glanced at the letters, her brow furrowed. If these documents are authentic, they suggest a scandal, one that may have been deliberately covered up. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. Could this heir still have descendants here, connected to the school? He asked. Eleanor nodded thoughtfully. It's possible. The Ashwood name might have disappeared, but their bloodline could have continued in secret. This journal and map might hold clues to what really happened. She traced her finger along the faded lines of the map, noting landmarks that matched the school's current layout. This X marks a location near the Old North Wing, an area that was sealed off decades ago. The weight of the discovery pressed heavily on Mark's shoulders. If the journal's contents were true, the painting and the hidden box were just the beginning. The school's carefully crafted reputation now teetered on the edge of exposure, and Rex, his loyal partner, had been the catalyst, sensing what no one else could. Eleanor's voice softened as she closed the journal. This mystery is bigger than a missing heir or a hidden treasure. It speaks to the heart of what Westwood Academy has tried to bury. If we follow this map and uncover what's buried there, we may finally reveal the truth that was meant to stay hidden. Mark exchanged a glance with Rex, whose ears twitched as though in agreement. The path ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear. They were about to unearth secrets that would change everything. The revelation of the Ashwood family's crest sent a shiver down Mark's spine. The name was long buried, its history obscured by layers of time and secrecy. But as he and Eleanor delved deeper into the journal's pages, a darker truth began to emerge, one that threatened to shatter Westwood Academy's prestigious legacy. The journal's entries were raw and unfiltered, penned by a young heir named Alistair Ashwood. His words spoke of a family consumed by ambition and betrayal. Alistair described his father's determination to secure wealth and status, even at the cost of morality. His writings hinted at a pact made in desperation, a secret agreement with the school's founders that involved the concealment of not just wealth, but also a crime. Mark read aloud an entry where Alistair recounted the night of his sister's disappearance. "Father said it was an accident," the entry read, "but I saw the fear in his eyes. I heard her cries behind the painting. And when the wall was sealed, so too was the truth." The words chilled Mark to his core. The compartment behind the painting had not been a random hiding place. It was a makeshift tomb, a desperate cover-up for a tragedy that had haunted the Ashwood family for generations. Eleanor's voice trembled as she pieced together the fragmented clues. The painting wasn't just decorative. It was a barrier between the past and the present. The Ashwoods must have struck a deal with the school's founders to hide the incident, preserving both the family's name and the academy's reputation. The realization weighed heavily on Mark. The institution he had sworn to protect was built on lies, its walls echoing with unspoken guilt. Rex, who had sensed the hidden chamber, now sat silently beside him, his intelligent eyes reflecting both loyalty and concern. The dog's instincts had unearthed not just a secret, but a moral reckoning that Mark couldn't ignore. As news of the discovery spread, whispers grew louder. Some teachers recalled old stories of missing persons and unexplained renovations in the school's north wing. Students exchanged theories, some fascinated, others horrified. The headmaster, visibly shaken, convened an emergency meeting, struggling to contain the growing unrest. Eleanor placed a gentle hand on Mark's shoulder. If we follow this map to the north wing, we might find more answers. But we need to be prepared for what we uncover. It could change the very foundation of this school's history. Mark nodded grimly. The time for speculation was over. He glanced down at Rex, who met his gaze with unwavering loyalty. Together, they would confront the shadows of the past, unearth the truth hidden behind walls and whispers, and ensure that the story of Westwood Academy's dark past was finally brought to light. Mark couldn't shake the question gnawing at his mind. How had Rex, of all creatures, sensed the hidden truth? The dog's instincts were beyond training, beyond simple obedience. It was as if Rex had been drawn to the painting by an invisible thread, an innate awareness that transcended the physical world. One quiet evening, long after the school's halls had emptied, Mark sat in his small office with Rex curled at his feet. He absently scratched the dog's ears, lost in thought. Rex's breathing was slow and steady, but his occasional ear twitch hinted that his senses were still alert, still tuned to the secret they had uncovered. Mark sifted through old records Eleanor had provided, forgotten enrollment lists, faded photographs, and yellowed letters. His fingers paused on a black and white photo of a young man standing with a dog at his side, both of them looking eerily familiar. The man's face bore a striking resemblance to Mark's own, and the dog, it could have been Rex's twin. A chill prickled down Mark's spine. Could it be? Could Rex's instincts be rooted in something more profound than training? A bond of blood, perhaps? Or a lineage of loyalty stretching back through the school's hidden history? Eleanor's earlier words echoed in his mind. The Ashwoods might have vanished, but their bloodline could have continued in secret. Suddenly, Mark realized that the young man in the photograph was Alistair Ashwood himself, the journal's author. The dog beside him wasn't just any companion. It was likely an ancestor of Rex. The connection between the painting, the hidden chamber, and Rex's unshakable instincts wasn't coincidence. It was legacy. Rex stirred, his head lifting to rest against Mark's knee. The dog's amber eyes shimmered with intelligence and something deeper, understanding, perhaps, or a silent promise. Mark's throat tightened with emotion. He placed a hand on Rex's strong shoulders and whispered, "You were meant to find this, weren't you? You've been waiting all this time." In that quiet moment, Mark felt the weight of generations settle upon them. Rex wasn't just a loyal K-9 partner. He was a living link to the truth buried in Westwood Academy's foundations. Together, they were destined to uncover what had been hidden for too long. The following morning, Mark, Eleanor, and Rex stood before the sealed door in the north wing of the school, the one marked on the faded map in Alistair Ashwood's journal. The corridor was eerily silent, the weight of the past pressing down like a heavy shroud. Dust particles danced in the faint sunlight filtering through the high windows, their slow movements almost reverent, as if acknowledging the gravity of the moment. With a nod from the headmaster, who hovered nervously nearby, Mark used a crowbar to pry open the warped wooden door. It groaned in protest before giving way, revealing a narrow, dust-choked passage that hadn't seen light in decades. Rex stepped forward, his nose twitching, his body tense but determined. Mark followed closely, his flashlight beam slicing through the darkness. At the end of the passage, they found a second door, smaller and sturdier, with heavy iron fittings. Eleanor examined it closely, her fingers tracing the same symbols from the journal that adorned the latch. "This is it," she murmured. With a final twist of the latch, the door swung inward. Inside was a hidden chamber, no larger than a storage closet, but its contents spoke volumes. Stacks of ledgers, carefully wrapped packages, and a small wooden chest filled the room. The air was thick with the scent of aged paper and forgotten secrets. Mark's pulse quickened as he reached for the ledgers, their covers embossed with the Ashwood crest. Eleanor flipped open the top ledger and gasped. "These are financial records, evidence of embezzlement, bribery, and names." Her voice trembled as she read aloud, revealing a list of school officials and influential families who had profited from covering up the Ashwood tragedy. The documents painted a clear picture of corruption that had festered beneath Westwood Academy's polished reputation. In the corner of the chamber lay a small, intricately carved box. Mark lifted it carefully, revealing letters and photographs inside. Among them was a final confession from Alistair himself, a heartfelt letter written in shaky script, detailing his guilt over his sister's disappearance, his family's downfall, and his failed attempt to right the wrongs. Rex whimpered softly, his ears flat against his head. Mark's throat tightened as he read the closing lines. "I have hidden this truth so that one day it might be found. To those who uncover it, please forgive us. Please set things right." The room fell into a profound silence, broken only by Rex's soft whines and the rustle of paper. Eleanor looked up at Mark, her eyes filled with sorrow. "We have everything we need. The truth has been buried too long. It's time to bring it to light." Mark nodded, his jaw set with determination. The hidden chamber had yielded its secrets, but the real challenge lay ahead, facing the consequences and ensuring that the truth, no matter how painful, would finally be heard. The revelation sent shockwaves through Westwood Academy. News of the uncovered documents and Alistair Ashwood's confession spread like wildfire. The headmaster, pale and visibly shaken, convened an emergency meeting in the same auditorium where the painting once hung. The staff gathered, their faces a mix of disbelief and dread. Students whispered in hallways, their voices hushed but urgent, as rumors circulated faster than the truth itself. Mark stood by the side with Rex, watching the scene unfold. He could feel the weight of the moment, knowing that the school's carefully curated image was crumbling before their eyes. The headmaster cleared his throat, his voice trembling as he addressed the gathering. "Ladies and gentlemen, it is with deep regret that we must acknowledge the existence of certain irregularities in our school's past," he began, though his words were careful, measured. Teachers exchanged wary glances, some frowning in frustration, others visibly upset. "Irregularities?" one of the senior teachers echoed, her voice sharp with disbelief. "This is more than irregularities. It's a cover-up of a tragedy, a family's betrayal, and corruption that touches the very foundation of this institution." The headmaster's hands trembled as he clutched the podium. "Please, let's remain calm. We must handle this matter with care. The truth will come to light, but we must protect the reputation of the academy and our students." Mark felt his jaw tighten. The words "protect the reputation" rang hollow in his ears. He glanced at Eleanor, who stood nearby with her arms crossed, her face a mask of quiet fury. Even Rex growled softly, as if sensing the headmaster's reluctance to face the full truth. From the back of the room, a student's voice rang out. "We deserve to know the truth," she called, her voice breaking the tense silence. Others murmured in agreement, their faces determined, their eyes filled with questions. The auditorium buzzed with a mixture of anger and determination. Mark stepped forward, his voice steady but firm. "The truth has been hidden long enough," he said. "Rex uncovered what no one else could, and now we have a responsibility to the memory of those wronged, to the integrity of this institution, and to the students who deserve honesty." The headmaster hesitated, then slowly nodded. "You're right," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "It's time for the truth to be told." As murmurs of agreement echoed through the room, Mark felt a glimmer of hope. The walls of silence had finally begun to crumble, and the truth was no longer just a whisper in the shadows. In the days that followed the revelation, Rex's role in uncovering the truth became the talk of the school. Students gathered in small groups, whispering about the German Shepherd who had brought down generations of silence with a single determined act. Posters appeared in hallways with hand-drawn images of Rex, some depicting him as a superhero, others simply calling him a hero. Mark watched with quiet pride as Rex basked in the attention. The dog's usual calm was replaced with a hint of curiosity as students approached him cautiously, offering treats and gentle pats. Rex wagged his tail, his amber eyes shining with warmth. Though he didn't understand the full weight of his actions, he sensed the gratitude and admiration in every touch and whispered thank you. The school's headmaster, once reluctant to face the truth, now stood on the auditorium stage with Mark and Rex at his side. "Today we honor not just a loyal K-9 officer," he announced, his voice echoing through the hall, "but a guardian of truth. Rex's instincts have reminded us all of the importance of listening, of looking beyond the surface, and of standing up for what is right." The applause that followed was thunderous. Students cheered, some even standing on their seats. Teachers, once skeptical, now clapped with genuine respect. Rex tilted his head at the sound, his tail wagging with pride. Mark knelt beside him, whispering softly, "You did good, buddy. You did what no one else could." News of Rex's heroism spread beyond the school grounds. Local media outlets picked up the story, calling it a remarkable example of canine intuition and loyalty. Interviews with Mark and Eleanor highlighted Rex's unwavering determination, and soon people from across the region sent letters of thanks, gifts, and even donations to support K-9 units in schools. But for Mark, the real reward wasn't in the praise or recognition. It was in the bond he shared with Rex, a bond built on trust, loyalty, and an unspoken understanding. As he scratched behind Rex's ears, he realized that the dog hadn't just uncovered a secret. He had reminded everyone of the power of truth and the value of listening to instincts, no matter how inconvenient they might seem. Together, Mark and Rex stood at the heart of Westwood Academy's transformation, their bond unbreakable, their story one that would be told for generations.